Join us now from across the pond is none other than Charlie Veitch. Charlie, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks very much for having me on the show. And almost a year ago, I was on Russia Today reporting from Toronto for the G20 from a dystopian vision of the future. And little did I know that this New World Order dystopian vision would follow me all the way home to Great Britain.
Oh, come on. But you're not surprised. You were arrested yesterday preemptively for planning crimes, thought crimes, suspicion of intent to cause a disruption.
He's a regular Tom Cruise.
What happened?
Criminal.
Well, I think they've brought in those weird cyborgs from Minority Report, and they actually watched one of my YouTube videos and arrested me for pre-crime for something I may or may not do in the future. But what we saw was the biggest propaganda, almost religious experience of pomp and ceremony and utter devotion to this parasite, which is the royal family. And just as we see in the big roundups in China or North Korea, any activist with a dissenting voice was rounded up and kept in the solitary cage for 24 hours. But I'm lucky to be out now. I've been charged, I've got court dates now, and my big crime is speaking my mind.
Charlie, let me ask you, because I'm a guy who, I watched the wedding. I just did a show, at least half a show about it. I mean, tried. I got hijacked by these guys. They pulled an insurgency on me right here in the studio. Now, I kind of like the wedding, the idea of the pageantry. It's a part of statecraft. It's a part of the institutions that govern, and I'm generally supportive of that. Why should I rethink this? Like, why do I need to change my mind?
Well, because the royal family, as I heard you and Luke discuss beforehand, and let's not forget Luke was actually denied entry into Canada when I was arrested at the G20, but that's an entirely different story. The reason why you should be a bit against the British royal family is because they are nothing but an inbred bunch of elitist parasites who are truly the 1,000-year Reich, which Hitler was almost dying for, to have a 1,000-year bloodline empire. The British monarchy represent the head of the social hierarchy, which justify the social class, which justify poverty, which justify the working class, the middle class, and the upper class. And though people may say that the royal family bring in hundreds of millions of pounds in tourism money to this country, we pay a very high psychological price for having this anachronistic.
Okay, what about this? What about this? Anybody who studies international politics today knows that the Queen is merely a symbolic figure. She has very little to do in terms of statecraft, international relations, and actually dictating policy. She is more of a revenue gatherer, and many people in England actually kind of like her.
Well, if I could interject, I mean, the Queen actually censored a show in Australia on the ABC network. The Chasers were doing a satire piece on Prince Philip and him being a racist and a Nazi sympathizer, and the Prince actually censored Australian TV show. So that's how much power and authority they have. The authority to censor any criticism. Charlie, what do you think about that?
Back to Charlie. No, Charlie, let's take a step back, because you wanted to give us the anarchists' history of the monarchy. Let's hear it.
Well, the anarchist history is basically that the royal family are still the head of the British Parliament. We live in a constitutional monarchy, and you may think that the Queen has no power, but every soldier swears allegiance to the Queen before he goes and kills Arab men for democracy.
I would
so
never
here we have
enlist.
a monarchy spreading democracy. Every policeman has the Queen's crown on his helmet. Whenever you go to a courthouse, there's the big emblem of the Queen on the wall of the royal family. And when I was in the police station yesterday, I was charged by the Crown Prosecution Service. So it's permeating all of British society. So for anyone to say that the royal family has no power just needs to look at these China-style pre-crime arrests of anyone with a dissenting opinion to truly see the fake state of liberty in Great Britain. There is no real liberty here. As long as you toe the line, you'll be fine.
Okay, speaking of the London Metropolitan Police, we have another clip I want to play for you here, get your reaction. This from the London Metropolitan Police Commander, Christine Jones.
Part of the operation includes taking action before the day, wherever possible, to help us to achieve our aims of safety and security. We have been working closely with officers investigating recent demonstrations in London, and as you are aware, bail conditions have been imposed on over 60 arrested people, including that they will not be allowed to enter London on the day of the wedding.
Were you one of the 60 people she was referring to?
I was the 99th person banned from London and arrested in their pre-crime raid.
You mean you didn't even get to be one of the first 60?
No, I wasn't important enough. And you know what's really funny, guys, is that they've charged me with conspiracy to commit a public nuisance, and the evidence of conspiracy is a YouTube rant I made, and that's their level of conspiracy.
Well, Charlie, I'm very happy to see that you're safe and out of jail. But how did they arrest you? How did they grab you? I know you went to the precinct before to tell them what you were doing, but what happened? Did they come to your house?
Yeah, there I was hanging out in my underwear, having a great time, getting ready for the big day. And two officers with CCTV camcorders strapped to their chests turn up at my door and basically just barge their way in, saying we have a warrant to search this premises, we've got an arrest warrant for you, we're arresting you for aggravated trespass for a previous protest, which is just a political thing. So my first thing I said was to Silky, my girlfriend, who has been very good. I just said, look, this is a political arrest, I'm a political prisoner under the British Crown, they've got nothing on me, this will be fine. So I got dragged outside into the van and disappeared for 24 hours, where I only had my brain for company in a concrete cell. So sometimes the only place for an honest man during a propaganda piece such as the royal wedding is in the jail cell.
Behind bars. Henry David Thoreau said something to that effect. Now,
indeed.
What were you calling for people to do to disrupt the royal wedding?
I was calling for everyone to just assemble peacefully in a place called Soho Square and bring megaphones and just make their voices heard with what I consider to be the 21st century AK-47, which is the megaphone. It's a peaceful weapon, and it's to basically enlighten people.
Well, okay, how about this? Now, it was Kate and William's day. It was their wedding day. And if you guys didn't want to watch, you didn't have to, but the fact that they put it together and had the consensus, there was obviously millions of people on the streets, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to interrupt the wedding? It's kind of a romantic day.
I have no problem with two young people in love wanting to get married. But when they spend my taxpayers' money and all the other people's taxpayers' money, it becomes a propaganda problem. And it's not an issue that we can escape the royal wedding. Every single house, all my neighbors got flags and pictures of William and Kate. It's turning into an almost North Korean personality cult, and it's very scary.
That sounds like Obama, if you ask me.
Yeah, no kidding. So what do you think this says about the people of England?
It says that they have a long way to go before they can actually psychologically mature as sovereign adults and throw off their psychological shackles of oppression and devotion to a parasite, elitist, blue-blooded family that thinks of them as scumbags.
Okay, I'm converted. I will reject royalty, but I'll still surrender my oath to the Constitution and be a constitutional American, if you can give me that.
All right, Charlie, I really love your philosophical perspective. I'm a fan of your work, the stuff that you do with the bullhorns in the streets. You sound so negative today, though, about this and down on your countrymen. Well, give us some hope. You're looking forward. You're looking to the long view. Tell us about that.
Well, I'll give you some love. The police that actually came to arrest me, the detectives that interviewed me, they were very polite, very fair. They treated me with utmost respect. I think what happened with me in the pre-crime arrest with the other 100 people is a massive public relations victory for the resistance, because in all the middle-class media, all the kind of nice high-class newspapers and on the BBC, people are getting very agitated that the state is coming after peaceful people now, and this helps wake up the masses that perhaps the state is trying to hide something, that they're trying to maybe sell an agenda. So arrests like mine yesterday, I feel very positive about that, and it helps me spread my message. It's brought me an extra 1,000 subscribers overnight. And police is now a household name in Great Britain, so thank you, media.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on the boon that this has for your activism, because as we know, any attempt by the government to restrict freedom backfires, and you're an excellent example of you taking that backfire effect and putting it to maximum advantage. So thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for the work that you do for love and for freedom in the world.
Thank you, brother.
You're very welcome, and tomorrow the footage of my arrest will be released online, so please look out for that, and thank you for having me on.
Outstanding.
Good to see you, Charlie.
All right, we'll have that footage for our audience on Monday then.
Wild.
That was Charlie Veitch of the British Love Police, fresh out of jail and still